Oh, it's good to be back, baby. Back at the scene of one of the greatest rugby robberies of all time. 2015, right here, right on this blade of grass, Elliot Dixon scored one of the greatest tries in Super Rugby final history to lead the Landers to a famous victory. But it's not about that. My Landers, something strange is happening. They're in the top 8. They've won 2 on the bounce. And they're coming for your Blues, JK. They're coming for your Blues, the Giant Killers. Let's get it on. Welcome to The Breakdown.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome into the Breakdown on the road. Yes, we have made it to Wellington just so these two can brag. I've seen more smiles from them in the last half an hour. Jeff Wilson, Joey Wheeler and Sir John Kerwin. I think you've had enough already.
Can
and
we
we're
swap
30
places?
seconds into the show.
Hey, come on, mate.
Do not touch me this early in the
We've heard
show.
all about your
Do not
Blues.
touch
It's
me.
about time we
This is
start.
not good.
We get excited about the Landers. And we're coming, mate.
You're not
we
coming.
like this. We
You're
finish
not going
8. We just
anywhere.
come under the radar, Ray Goldie. And then we
Who have you
just
beaten?
ruin the
Who
Blues
have
party.
you beaten?
We've beaten
Mate,
the
significant.
Drua. We've beaten the Drua in Fiji for the very, very first time. And
That's
we've
the
gone
first
across
time
the
they've ever
Tasman.
played there.
That doesn't
mean
matter.
feat, mate.
We were the first team to do it, and we beat the Reds on the road.
Yeah, that
I tell
is
you what,
significant.
bottom line, since the Trans-Tasman
Significant.
final last year, JK,
The
we're looking
Reds,
for an opportunity.
O'Connor.
We've got some work to do.
I'm looking forward to Jeff's power rankings because the Highlanders need to be featuring in that after those 2 victories, mate.
You
back
are
to back.
both tragic.
Absolutely. And we're tragic.
Mate, we've heard all about your
Yeah,
Blues.
but we're
We've heard all about
first.
your Blues.
We're first. You guys are
And we're
8th
eighth.
by 11 points or something ridiculous.
Mate, the Scots are coming up to the big smoke to take it down.
I've never seen
William
these two
Wallace
with
and
bigger
his crew.
grins on their faces. And they're
Don't make the
8th,
most of
JK. They're only 8th. Your Blues are first.
Well, I'm putting in a petition for top 6. Why would you have?
Of course you are.
Why would
Because
you
he's
have?
scared.
He's
You're
scared.
scared of the
You're
Landers.
so afraid. You want to
Honestly,
change the rules? You want to change
honestly,
the rules?
Why would you have a top 8 with only 12 sides? I get that when there's 15 sides, but why did they just forget?
You're on the run already. You don't
Top
want to have.
6, top 2 get a rest.
So you don't obviously believe the Blues can win 3 games in a row? Kirsty, let's move on
It's going
before
to be a
he's
great
all
show.
of a sudden.
That's
you know,
all I
good
can
luck.
say. It's
Good
going to be a
luck.
great show. Let's get straight into Super Rugby, shall we? Because clearly there's plenty to talk about. Super Rugby with Nurofen available at Chemist Warehouse. And we'll start off here in Wellington this afternoon. It was an absolute mauling, a cricket score the Hurricanes racked up. Not what we're expecting from the Drua.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed, I think. They're a better team than that. I don't know whether, going back home, a lot of them might not have been home for a long, long time. Really emotional first game in Fiji. And probably deserved to win, but didn't, guys, to be fair.
I think that's what it looked like. We spoke about it in the post-match dinner, Goldie, that they did look emotionally drained. They just didn't front. But I think possession stats were something like 70% to 60%, sorry, to the Hurricanes, and their territory was something like 70%. So they just had no ball, and they just didn't really want to be there. I think from where they were last week in Suva, I'd be worried if I was Mick Byrne about this Fiji and Drua side, Jeff, because they took a significant step back. They showed so much promise last week against the Highlanders, but this week they just didn't even front.
I look at this as the fact that they played probably so poorly by their own standards. I don't think I'm going to read too much into it. Bottom line, I think they'll look at that performance. They were bitterly disappointed. This is one of those situations, though, where clearly they weren't on top of their game. JK, clearly they hadn't prepared well. Clearly they weren't in a position to challenge the Hurricanes team at home. And I think that's why they can walk away from this performance and go, you know what, sometimes you can leave one behind you. This is the one they just need to leave behind them and focus on going forward.
Yeah, look, and I totally agree with it. I expected that both from the Drua and from Moana Pacifica because it's so hard to keep that constant level up. And emotionally, I just think they're tired. I'm pleased they're disappointed. They need to come out and continue what has been a really good season so far.
On the flip side, Canes.
Yeah, can we zone in on a couple of Hurricanes players?
Please.
Let's talk about a debutant in Owen Frank. Strange to call him a debutant. And Cody
150 caps for the
and Dane
Crusaders.
Coles as well returning.
Brilliant to see this guy back in New Zealand footy and highly motivated by the sounds of things. And obviously Dane Coles has been out for a long time. Those calves of his, he's got some real issues there, but great to see them back. And to add some experience to what was a really young Hurricane side. They blooded in a lot of young talent to give them that experience. But these guys, getting them back in the mix, after a significant injury like Owen Franks, we can't understate an Achilles injury at his age, coming back into the front row, he didn't look out of place at all.
Look, I think perfect game, JK, for them to come back in on. The fact they go out there was very little pressure on. The set piece wasn't under too much pressure. Look, trying to find their feet once again. They haven't played any rugby, JK. So I look at it at the fact that, you know, these guys are professionals. They know how to prepare. Big challenges for both of these guys going forward, though, JK. How much of an impact Owen Franks can continue to have, and for Dane Coles, what his ambition is for 2022.
Yeah, I think a little bit easier for Dane. Like, right now, if he stays fit, I'd take him as an All Black, even if he was number 3, because he still brings something special.
Yep.
He sits out wide, he can step, he brings that little bit of niggle when you need it, Joey. Owen, I think, is going to have to work his way into it. I think there's a lot of really good young props coming through. And I'll say this again, sorry, I'm going to say it every show, 18 tests to go. You know, unless we get a couple of injuries, you go, right, would he be really good coming on late in the test match? The answer would be yes. But otherwise, you've actually got to stick with what you've got and make sure that by the time we get to the World Cup, still a couple of years away, that you've got those guys that can run on. They've got 10 or 12 test matches. And if you get an injury, maybe he might come into consideration. But I think Dane is probably the guy we'd be looking at.
Well, JK, I just need you to brace yourself, because these two are about to unleash. We're talking about the Reds taking on the Highlanders. And the Highlanders, they're in contention now, aren't they?
Look, it's the nature. It's the nature. When you're saying contention, they're in a playoff spot. They're going to give themselves an opportunity, if they continue to play well, to get in a situation when they're in a knockout game. But the only position they can finish, realistically, is 8th. So it's going to be a huge, huge challenge. So I look at this, though. This performance wasn't perfect. And they got behind against the Reds team, and they had to dig incredibly deep. And this Reds team are not the same Reds team they were a month ago. So, look, I think we have to give credit where credit's due. This was a good performance, but this to me doesn't mean that they're well and truly back on task and on target for where they need to be.
Look, it's promising. The Highlanders, you're right, they're probably likely going to finish 8th, but seeing guys like Thomas Umaga-Jensen, Folau Fakatava, the impact that they're having on this team and the difference that they're making is significant. So I think they are tracking in the right direction. Brownie and coach should be happy with the way that this team is developing. It's slowed. I still think their attack has a lot of growth in it. They're not creating nowhere near as many opportunities or breaking the line as nearly as much as what we're used to of maybe Highlanders sides in the past. But they're a gritty side, which is promising for Highlanders fans, is that they're not going to give in, and they are going deep into games, and they're giving themselves chances.
Let's just see what he's got to say. I want to hear what he's got to say.
What's the next game? No, seriously, I think Fakatava, I said last week, I still haven't seen the form that he showed pre-injury. Yeah. But he was outstanding, right? And what we've been expecting to see, we saw the strong, takes on guys around the ruck. And when you're not used to a halfback playing like that, then you get put under pressure. Look at the defensive five starting to slide, and then he's strong enough to do that. So that's his best game back. Umaga-Jensen, the same, you're talking about, Joey. The Highlanders have needed some X-factor players to make this change, and that's what we've started to see, which is really, really good. On the other side, you know, O'Connor's out, Tupou's out for the Queensland team, and that's what they used to bring. But I'm so happy to see this young man back in, and I believe that the NZR are trying to talk to them about releasing him, because what's happening to him is very unfair.
Yeah, I am concerned too for the Reds in regards to Harry Wilson. Went off on a stretcher, and hopefully that he hasn't been ruled out for too long. Hopefully he can recover, because he's a big part of what they do and what Australian rugby needs going forward. He's an impressive individual.
I would just say one thing though, and I'll only give you this one compliment.
Yay.
Right? So don't write it down. Stop record, people. Stop
recording at home.
No, stop record. Outstanding effort, because they're down and out.
Yeah.
They weren't getting a break.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're so proud of, right? They hung in there, playing tough.
And their travel schedule leading up, so they've gone Dunedin to Melbourne, Melbourne to Suva, Suva back to Brisbane, and they've produced 2 wins on the road. That's significant.
How much duty-free would you brought?
Plenty. But 16 hours it took them to get Suva back to Brisbane. So that is a gutsy effort in conditions that are always tough. Fiji, hot, humid. you know, us Southerners, we don't really like the heat at the best of times. So, you know, the boys dug deep and went deep into
Stop going on about it. I said one compliment, you're still going on 10 minutes later.
Very positive.
Let's move on.
Oh, you want to move on now? Okay,
Please.
well, let's move on. Let's take a look at the Super Rugby Pacific table after 12 rounds, and we'll take a look at the top 4 because that is so important at the moment. The teams that are in the hunt for a home quarterfinal. Jeff, at the moment, the Blues, Brumbies, Crusaders and Chiefs are in there, closely followed by the Waratahs and Reds.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at that table and you're going to yourself, it's going to get congested, it's going to get challenging over the next 3 weeks, and you want to position yourself clearly to get a home quarter-final, and the Chiefs right now are a team that need to find some momentum back in their game. No different the Reds, though. I do like the direction that Waratahs are heading. I've got a power rankings coming up a little bit later. It's the clear and obvious 6 right now. I still think there's going to be a bit to play out here. Joey, given the fact the Blues, Brumbies and Crusaders, they've got to play each other. You know?
Yeah.
So there's something, and this is obviously clearly where we look at it.
Where
12
I'm
points
moaning,
behind.
where I'm saying, look at the difference between 7th and 8th. Like, do you seriously think we should be having a top 8?
But look, mate,
Yeah, I do.
it doesn't matter. Like, for me, I'm happy to finish 8th. You've got to beat the Blues somewhere along the finals night, so why not do it in the quarterfinal?
To answer your
get rid
question,
of them early.
absolutely, because what you don't, and this is a short competition, there are not a lot of games. You do not want to eliminate teams from the playoff
Exactly.
picture in 5 or 6 rounds if they don't get off to a positive start. You need the opportunity for teams to work their way into the season. Otherwise, all of a sudden, it loses its purpose very, very quickly.
You're right about the top 7 though, JK, but how exciting is it that bottom half of the table?
Because they're
Jostling
chasing-
for
they're
places
chasing
all
the
the
eighth.
time. Every game matters.
I think the positive for me is the incredible improvement from the Australian sides. I mean, a few weeks ago we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what the distance was, what was going to happen last year, the same this year, and they are playing very well, the Australian sides, I believe. I mean, the Reds have dropped off a wee bit, but the Brumbies and the Waratahs are going really good. They're playing really good football.
Well, the Australian media right now are claiming 2 victories over the weekend over Kiwi teams because of Moana Pacifica as well. But after the Brumbies performance, do they deserve to have that confidence about them?
Yes, totally. They were very, very good. I think what I was impressed with was their incredible, and I don't know a lot about this, Joe, because I never went to a ruck in my life, but they were incredibly accurate, incredibly disciplined, and they were very, very patient. And with that patience, they've got enough X factor now to really put the Chiefs weren't bad, I didn't think. They made a few uncharacteristic errors, but they're actually very good at times.
Yeah, they are the real deal, this Brumbies side. Gone are the days of the, you know, kick for the corner, penalty, roll their sleeves up, go to another maul. Their scrum rely heavily on set piece and penalties to get in the right end of the field. They now have those X factor players that were talked about, Goldie, that are genuine line breakers. They're actually creating, and they're using they're putting some air on the ball, which is awesome to see. They've got the balance of their game really nice. Nick White is a phenomenal driver of this team, and he does it better than anyone. He is
And
the
what a
key.
mo.
He is the key. As good as that.
You're a man for detail. You are. You
I reckon he needs a bit of that wax.
a little bit,
Yeah, wakes it up.
at the end.
Oh,
But yeah,
stunning.
he's fantastic, Goldie, and he is the key to that side. And for them to come over to Waikato Stadium and to put in a performance like that is a significant shift. They're a title contender for sure.
So we talked about the Reds not having Taniela Tupou, no James O'Connor. What do the Chiefs not have right now available to them? So Anton Leonard-Brown ruled out for the season. So that's significant. The fact they didn't have Brad Weber looks as though he's on the way back next week. Brodie Retallick, not too far away. Josh Ioane, all of a sudden a different impact coming off the bench. So I think there's a number of things I think I put in perspective in this performance. I expected probably a little bit more from the front 8 of the Chiefs. They just didn't have the control I expected up front, which to me suggests this Brumbies team are a team that are a real deal for me, Kirsty. The fact that all of a sudden the way they are playing also is impressive, and this could be the formula for me. If you're Dave Rooney to be looking at, this will be the core of my Wallaby side because they collectively look on tune.
Well, they're putting pressure on the Blues now, aren't they, to take that top spot?
No.
Wrong person
I'm
to
looking
ask.
forward to
Sorry.
that game. Like, this
No,
is
they
key.
are. No,
The
totally.
They've
weekend
got
for
2
them.
big
Yeah,
games
2 big
coming up, the
ones, yeah.
Crusaders in Canberra, and then they host the Blues.
That's right. That's going to be telling as to where they are at, because we know how good these 2 forward packs are from the Crusaders and the Blues. And to go to Canberra, we know it's a bit of a fortress for this Brumbies side. If they can front against those 2, that's where we're really going to get a gauge on. I think they are genuine title contenders, but where they
agree.
sit.
I agree. I was only joking because the reality
No,
is,
you weren't.
the reality is that, like I said last night, really competent at set piece, really good scrum, put the Chiefs under pressure, really competent at ruck, good kicking game. I mean, they out-kicked the Chiefs last
Yes,
night.
they did.
So they are the real deal, and I think they're going to come through these next 2 games, and it will be incredibly, competitive.
That's why I want to ask you, Kirsty. You were there working on that game, right? How did it feel to you in terms of the fact that their presence at the game, in terms of even the way the crowd was reacting to, obviously, an impressive performance?
I think it was good. It was good that Australia are actually coming to the party now, right? This is what we've needed from the competition. They obviously want their team to front up and to perform. It wasn't to be, but it was a good game. It was a solid game of rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should feed off that.
Yeah.
That how strong this competition can get to if we start seeing these results. Now, look, there's no you can't ignore the fact that the Rebels took a beating. Absolutely took a beating. The Force did as well over the weekend. They themselves will be disappointed with their ability to back up week on week. But the signs from the big teams have certainly been there when the big players are available. And teams, I think those Australian teams still suffer when they go through injury, when they lose key players like the Reds have.
Well, you three have had your love affair with your team, so time for me to have a little bragging moment. Quinta Pye, can we talk about him being back in the midfield? How good was he?
Yeah, I thought he was okay, actually, Kirsten. I think his attack
Just okay,
was,
Joey?
Yeah, his attack was outstanding, but defensively, I think, yeah, he missed a few tackles, which was surprising for me. I think that's probably his work on, is his defensive work. But we all obviously know he's a brilliant attacker. But on the other side of the ball, I was a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest. But I think he's got some real growth that he needs to, probably.
You've caught Kirsty on the hop there, because I mean,
I'll go to someone else.
You go to someone else. Go to JK. What did you see?
Well, Joey played lots in the forward, but I actually agree with him. No, I think that it's been a hard year for him, and he needed to get back, and he needed to have a strong game last night. I think he has ups and downs during the game, and what I've seen from him is definitely All Black material, and he can definitely go a long way, but he just needs consistency around the little parts of the game. But I think it was a really big statement from him last night, because he's been under
young.
selection pressure. Exactly, only young.
Only young.
But age has never been something that we've worried about when we're talking about whether you're going to be an All Black. But he certainly, I like what he brought on attack last night. I'd just like to see him back that up next week.
I'll support you, Kirsty, though. The fact it was his best attacking game of the season. He was creating for the players around him, which is something we desperately need in the midfield.
Okay, well, we've mentioned it. Only 3 rounds to go of the regular season. Before we're into the playoffs, how could it be this time already? But you're going to go through your power rankings.
Excuse me, did we not show the blue? Why didn't we show the blue?
Hold
We're
on.
doing every player.
You're getting your moment. You're going to get your moment. But give Jeff
That was Friday night.
This is wrong.
It's only
It
an
was
hour
Friday
show.
night.
It's only an hour-long show. mate.
It was Friday night. Look, I did my power rankings about a month ago, and I looked into the form and what's coming up for the teams, and we've got 3 rounds to go. And so I thought long and hard about this before the weekend. I thought to myself, this is how I felt going in. And then all of a sudden, a couple of results happen. So I'm going to throw them up straight away. Here they are, where they sit right now. And look, we've discussed where a lot of these teams are at. The Waratahs, to me, on the back of 3 really good weeks and performances, I think they're the big mover out of the Australian side. You'll say the Brumbies, well, they were already there. The Chiefs, they themselves, they're still sitting in that top 4 position. They've come up against some really good teams who are playing some really good footy. And last night, I think, was a big step for them. Crusaders, they stepped up when they needed to. They needed a big result. 30 minutes, though, they still weren't in control of the game. It took them a while to get some momentum, but they welcomed back Wichi Mo'onga. And so I think that'll help them going forward. But this is where I think this is actually a lot closer than I thought when I originally put it down. And if I'd had my time again, given the fact the Brumbies are going to have the Crusaders and Blues at home and the way they performed last night, I'm just putting the Blues only just. I'm 1A, 1B right now. The fact that those two
That
teams...
is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. You either have your power rankings, mate, and you live by it. You can't say, oh, no, sorry, I want to swap the Brumbies out for the Blues. Now, you can't do that.
Well, no, I think it's more on the fact, seeing you face to face, I've decided you're feeling way too comfortable with where the Blues are at right now. And all of a sudden...
1A and B, what's that?
1A and 1B, because then I started looking at the draw, and I think to myself, this Brumbies team, and you know how difficult it is to go and play in Canberra. That is not an easy trip. And they'll be looking at that game going, you know what, if there's one game game now they know they need to win. They just win that one game against the Blues. That swings all the momentum in their favour. And this is a great franchise that has been really strong for a long, long time. You're only just tasting success at the Blues.
Have you
only
finished?
just tasting success.
Have you finished? Because 11 tries on Friday night. 11 tries, hang on. And we've been down to the Crusaders and beaten them for the first time in 350 million years down there, right? A Blues side of old would have beaten this side by 40. They carried on with it. They absolutely took them to pieces. And that's why we will go to the Brumbies and win, because we have to. If you're going to be a contention, if you're going to say, I'm going to win this, great angle, great run. Oh. You know, but
carry on.
No, there's a couple of things.
I'm giving you your opportunity because I'm going to come back at you.
Okay, there's a couple of very, very important things. Although the Crusaders came back late, the Blues won down there. That's really important for this young crew. 11 tries the other night. They wouldn't have done that 2 years ago, right? So this is a maturing side. They'll be going, Joey, get me down there. I want to go to Canberra. Instead of, it's going to be cold and wet. They'll be looking forward to it.
That could be a shift. I agree with you there. I think there has been a definite shift in their mental preparation around these games. We saw that they were excited to go down to Crusaders, create history, but they need to do that again, because we know Canberra, it's a terrible place to go, and it's a terrible place to go in a few weeks where it's cold. They're going to roll their sleeves up, they're going to be tough. So it's going to be another test for this Blue side to see if they are the real deal.
Jeff, you had the Crusaders in your power rankings at third. As you mentioned, they had Richie Mo'unga back and normal business resumed, didn't it?
It did resume, but by the same token, I looked at their performance and it still wasn't as convincing as I would have liked. You say, well, it ended up being a blowout. Well, I think the first, the Force, all of a sudden lost all of their shape. All of a sudden they got under pressure, and we started to see this. But this Force team, I don't think is as strong as they have been to start the season. Look, this Crusaders team, it finished strongly. I'm just, right now, this is a team I don't think is as confident as it has been in previous season, and they are feeling an element of pressure because it's actually out of their hands right now. Normally they're in control of their situation, they're in control of their run home. It's actually in the hands now of the Blues and the Brumbies about who they might have to go through, and they might have to do it on the road. And that is a different challenge for this Crusaders team.
It'll be interesting to see. I think this weekend for this Crusaders side will be a real good gauge of where they're at, because going again, Canberra against the team that's in second spot, we're going to see if this Crusaders team is like the Crusaders of old, where they go back to muscling teams, taking them on at set piece time, rolling their sleeves up, getting stuck in and doing it up front to then. That back line's world class, right? They've got stars all over the place, but they just aren't fronting up front, and I don't think teams fear them like they used to. So they need to instill that fear back in teams that they once had, and it's probably gone a little bit. The fear factor's gone,
is it, Joey? Great chat from you guys.
I think a little bit.
There's going to be plenty more chat still to come as well. Of course, we play our trivia game that you can get involved in. We've got a beautiful Mother's Day story, and we bring one of our Sky Mums, Christina Suin, too.
Pass and working on the skills.
My mum has been there from the start, so I'll probably say, between her and my father are probably definitely my biggest fans. I played in the NPC when I was 14, and I guess being a mum, thinking your little 14-year-old girl's going against these fully grown women, and at that stage too, obviously had to miss a few days of school each week, so it was a pretty big decision. But those years playing and being able to be alongside some Black Ferns like Kathleen Wilton, Claire Richards, not at the moment, but that they inspire. Like, he gets to come and he's probably watching the drone fly around more than he's watching us, but the same thing, like, he starts doing down and ups and running just because that's what he sees us do. So I guess I'm just lucky to be involved in this team and have my son, I guess, grow up being around them.
We're so lucky to have them. It's a really awesome community to be a part of.
There's definitely quite a few rugby balls around, and his auntie Gossie made sure he got a Hurricanes jersey and a rugby ball for his birthday, so we'd sort of put that one on the back foot during Super, but I'll definitely be biased. I wouldn't be mad if he was throwing a footy around, that's for sure.
Oh, what a beautiful story for Mother's Day as well. Really special insight into their family and showing that mums can do anything. Christina, so great to have you on our panel as well. Happy Mother's Day to you, of course, for the little one at home. What's it been like for you today on Mother's Day, and what's it been like playing and raising a child as well?
Today it's been, I wouldn't say tough, but I know it's a day to celebrate our mums, and I just want to shout out to my mum who would have been watching the Hurricanes Drua match saying, when's my daughter going to shout out to me? And you know, she would have been watching her Warriors, that's her team as well. But shout out to you, mum, for all that you do, and also my partner Rye, who's at home looking after our baby and allowing me to be here and be able to do the broadcasting stuff. That I'm really grateful, and playing. I'm only playing at club level, but just balancing that.
You did say you had the try of the day yesterday. You told me that before you had the try of the day. Is that true or false?
Well, it is actually false in terms of I didn't score. I gave it to Rachel Rakato, Cyclones captain, but I did get an almost 80-metre dash that I'm quite proud of. So
did you hit a wall though? Did you hit a wall?
No, I was 2 metres from and I got caught. But Rachel, as all good Lucy's are, they'll be there in support, and I had to give it in the end. I heard her calling for it the whole time. I'm almost there.
We need vision of this. We'll send the Sky OB truck next time.
It should be on try of the week. K1 Rugby Union, you put it on there.
That is awesome. But of course, big news this week for the Black Ferns, because Wayne Smith has named his first squad of the year, a 31-woman squad, and it has been interesting. There's a new captain, there's new players in here. It's exciting, Sui.
It is exciting, and I think it's you get a sense of the style that they're trying to play in terms of, I guess, a fast. Well, I spoke to one of the coaches, and they said it's about, you know, some of these girls are athletes. Not saying that the other ones are not, but I guess it's if you're trying to implement a game profile, you certainly need to pick your player profile. Isn't that correct, JK?
Yeah, would there have been some standards that they might have said? I realise this is probably not the World Cup squad, right? But would they have gone away and said, we want to play the style, you need to get fit, you're not quite fit enough now? Do you think some of those things might have been implemented?
I mean, with such a short time frame, the coaches would have probably had to get their eye on their players and say, what do they offer in terms of athleticism that we can sort of implement into the game style that they're trying to play. So you've got the likes of Lucy Anderson, who makes it as a 31-year-old who entered the Black Ferns environment as a 19-year-old, finally gets her shot. But you know, she was a midfielder, went into number 8 and said, look, if you want an opportunity, it's sort of in this front row position. And I mean, so there's great opportunities for those new players.
So let's put this in a perspective. 7 new caps, 3 in this squad that haven't actually played Test match footy, and then another 12 that have played less than 5 tests for the Black Ferns. This is a revolutionary team in terms of Wayne Smith clearly has looked at this group and said, you know what, we needed a fresh look, we needed to get some different people getting an opportunity, and there's 4 test matches they're going to find out, right?
They are, and it's the very limited, I guess, opportunities that they do have. And you're talking about the caps in total.
Exactly.
I mean, what does that highlight? I mean, you look at the English Roses, they're packed this season for one of the games against Ireland. They had 491 caps just in the pack, and you just rattled off those numbers. So I guess it just shows, I guess, the lack of test matches that there are, and there's very short time to actually expose our Black Ferns to playing test match footy.
So many changes, is it needed or is it panicking a bit?
I think it's needed, because when else are you going to get to see these players before a pinnacle event in 6 months' time? There's no other test matches. There is no Six Nations series for the Black Ferns. They've got 5 tests in total before the World Cup.
One of the exciting players to be named in this 31-woman squad was Ruby Tui, because she's dedicated herself this year to the 15-a-side game rather than the 7s. Will we see more players filter through? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, there's some, you got world-class athletes, players, the 7s girls that will no doubt put their hand up for selection before, you know, after games. You've got Woodman, Brazier, Hiddeny, and Flula that are all, you know, world-class players who've been to World Cups, and they're already competing at that, you know, international level. So I do see that sense that those girls will be available, and the likes of the ones that are sort of injured, Simon, Elder.
Yeah. When we were playing, long time ago, but transition from 7s to 15s was actually quite hard. Is that gap closed? I mean, is it a little bit easier now for them to go from 7s to 15s?
That's a fair point, and I think, I guess, when you look at the opposition, like, who are we going to be competing with? You've got the likes of English Red Roses. There are specific just 15-a-side players, and maybe when they do match up against those teams, it will be a lot harder, and unfortunately we don't have the time for those 7 girls to practice.
So the reality is, though, it's up to the players who are getting the opportunity now to prove that they should get into the squad ahead of those 7s players. They need to put the pressure on. the likes of Portia Woodman, Sierra Hirini, Stella Fleur to step up, because if they do that, it's a different conversation we're having, and that's that desperation you're talking about. So this isn't going to be a walk-in for a lot of these players. They'll still have the front.
That's right, and like look at Ruby Tui. She has an opportunity to be on the World Series to go to Com Games, but she knows she wants a shot at playing 15s, and what she has to do is prove herself in this game, playing Test matches. So I mean, opportunity for those players that are named in the 31 squad that play in the upcoming 5 series to say, actually, we're good enough to be here, and asking questions of those Black Ferns management whether they do look to include the 7 skills.
So I was overseas when you were last on the breakdown, but there was all sorts going on. Are you a little bit happier now?
I am a bit happier. I thought I'd have to come in here before and sort of mediate what was going on before in the first half of the show, but I'm happier now that, you know, we've got the coaches have been selected. They've got, I guess there's a clearer direction now, and so we just now, let's focus on Black Ferns and seeing what they can produce in these next 6 months.
Voce di corridoio,
I love this.
Which is what whispers are you hearing? I mean, are the players actually happy with the transformation, with the change they've bought into it already?
From what I'm hearing, very positive messages coming out of camp. I sense new energy from you know, the likes of Wayne Smith, who's come in, and I've heard he met every player, knew everything about them. I've seen that footage. Hello, kia ora, and greeted all of them. Kaipo Olsen-Baker, you know, the player that I've taught and coached. She said, I just feel free. You know, so he's giving these players confidence to just go out there, express yourself, and you know, and they're doing a lot of education and saying, look, we know you're raw. We know that they're still developing, but we're going to give you all the resources possible to just allow these girls to play with some freedom.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sue. You add so much value to the program. So enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. You can get involved in the trivia question now, though. These guys are going to, and we're going to get Joey Wheeler back after the break as well. Play from home, because what happens next?
Over to Moni's head, picked up by Coventry. He's a large lad, wins quite a bit of line-out ball at the back. Over to Moni's head, picked up by Coventry. He's a large lad, wins quite a bit of line-out ball at the back. Wellington have it.
Welcome back into the breakdown. That is your trivia question for today. What happened next? I have no doubts that you will know exactly what the answer is. We're looking for very specific. Joey, you wanted to see it again, so now's your chance.
Well, I did want to see it again because I think it's 1995, so that would mean I was about 7 years of age.
No excuses.
You'll know.
So I've got no idea.
JK?
Literally, I thought it was the Matt Dunning drop goal.
I'm pretty confident that a streaker came on, a streaker ran on, and he got smacked into the stand.
Like happened at Eden Park?
Yeah, exactly.
That was
That's,
massive.
I think, what
that was
happened.
one of the best tackles of the
Yeah,
night.
wasn't
The
it?
Force needed to sign that person up. That security guard,
Exactly.
they should, the Rebels, the Force, they all should have signed him up. Christian Cullen, he goes the length. The Paikakariki Express goes 2 passes. He's gone. Dummies in the middle. There was someone open as usual, but Kelly decided not to pass to them.
Give him a job. Let's take a look.
Hey, Kelly, you know.
Wellington have it.
Nice and simple. Here it is. 2 passes.
John
There's Kelly.
here.
Drift across. Yep.
He's through.
Yep.
I remember this now.
He is off. Well, now you remember it, do you?
Christian Cullen.
Off
Yeah,
and
it didn't
gone.
show enough.
Hey, there
I
it
think the
is.
footage was unfair.
Why was it unfair?
Because you need to show one more pass.
It's clearly obvious that
Who was
that
he
was
going
going
to
to
pass
happen.
that to?
What's that?
How
Who was he
good.
going to pass that to?
Well, they stopped chasing. The support players stopped saying so. Well, look, it was one of the great tries in Super Rugby history. Unfortunately, they were
Cully.
down by 25.
Who would actually, I've got a question for you. You obviously played a lot of rugby with them. 100-metre sprint in your prime. Who wins the 100-metre sprint out of you and Kelly?
Kelly knows.
No, well, tell us.
We now know
Kelly
too.
knows.
You know
I
Kelly.
don't know.
You know, Kelly.
What, you?
What's that?
Are you winning
Joe.
a 100-metre dash?
Joey, that's like a...
What about
that's
you
like,
in your prime?
Hey?
You take them
Both me and Kelly.
Listen, Cully...
Me and Kelly got him. We got
Kelly-
him, no problem. What are
Kelly
you
for
serious?
Me, Kelly for me was one of the prettiest runners of the rugby ball.
Is that
ever.
is that a quick backhand at me?
No. You had hair back then, but seriously, his balance and his grace was that of a dancer.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for adding a bit of spice, Joey. Great to add a little bit of spice to this one. Well, we're in Wellington, so it'd be remiss of us not to celebrate some of the most iconic moments from the men wearing the yellow and black jersey here in Wellington.
He's try. Off it goes to Umaga. Umaga's away.
That was for you, Wellington. I know we're a hard team to follow.
Here's a miss of sight. Scott support. Lomu on his own. What a super try. The sort of try only one player in world rugby can score.
Flat pass to Solialo. Strong runner with the ball. Cullen. What a wonderful sight it is, the rhythm of Christian Cullen.
Cullen clear. Umaga looking to get with him. Cullen. Oh, down he goes. He's got to try and recover. And he does. Back to Basham. They'll probe again. Cullen. Big gap here for Cullen. Away to Bolo and try.
Save of the moment. The Wellington crowd and supporters.
Well, Nisbo, we're going to take some time, mate, to reflect on the history of the Hurricanes, and you were there in the year of inception back at Athletic Park in the 90s.
That seems a long time ago, Ken. 1996, of course, it all started at the famous old Athletic Park, and of course there were no lights, so all the games were played in daylight hours, I guess, and so 4 years there, and ever since it's been right here. What's that? 22 odd seasons, I think.
Yeah, so it's not a long history, but time enough for us to enjoy some wonderful moments and some favourite players.
Well, yeah, look, there's been some great players, haven't there? You know, when you think of Tana Umaga and Jonah Lomu, and the names go on, but my favourite player, and I always say that as people, is Christian Cullen. What a phenomenal rugby player the bloke was. He really was, and not just on attack, he scored tries from all over the place, set tries up for others, excellent defender. Just a great all-round rugby player.
Yeah, Jerry Collins was another one, took your eye?
Yeah, Jerry Collins, yes. I mean, he was a local boy, you know, a bit like Kelly. Jerry Collins, fantastic, different sort of player, obviously. Just a hard, gritty bloke and a world-class player and a top-class All Black as well.
Mate, if we were going to compile a list of tough and gritty players, David Holwell would be at the top.
Yeah, one of my favourites, David Holwell. Came all the way down from Whangarei, turned himself into a Hurricane, and one of the very best, actually. And you think of the players he had outside him, you know, and he had to operate well for guys like Nonu and Umaga and Lomu and these sort of guys to function. And gritty, I tell you what, I saw David Holwell on more than one occasion play on a Friday night here at the stadium and then turn out for his club side Poniki on a Saturday. Quite happy to do that. He would have played on Sunday as well if he'd had the opportunity.
It's a far cry from the stand-down environment we're in these days.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah. Now, what about your favourite players?
Yeah, well, I thought I'd take time to mention Ben May.
Yep.
Because I think he's a timely reminder that for a veteran player who's still in the squad and got some time this year, that our game is for all shapes, all sizes and all ages. Martin Nona, who's still playing in America, is in that category as well.
Yep, absolutely. Ben May, fantastic, really. I mean, here's a guy, I think he started at the Chiefs, didn't he? And he won't mind us saying he's 40 years of age. 40.
Same age as Ma'a.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of rich characters in our game. Hard for us not to go past Jonah Lomu in terms of impact in the game and on the fans.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he obviously started at the Blues, came down here to Wellington and was an immediate success, and he was a real fan favourite. You know, we talk about all these great players, Ken. The interesting thing is that the Hurricanes have only ever won one championship. You know, we talk about the Crusaders have won 12 and the Blues have won 3, blah, blah, blah. You know, all these great players, can you pinpoint, for me, why, with all these great players, they've only ever won one championship?
Yeah, it's interesting. Was it one, I read once, 59% of all Super Rugby players come from the Hurricanes region. So, you know, there's a lot of success being enjoyed outside the Hurricanes by what you could call Hurricanes players.
Yes, exactly. I know when in my days at the TAB, the biggest turnover games are always the Hurricanes games. They're always the most popular team to bet on in the entire country.
Yes, they were. So, there it is. Thanks, Nisbo, for your time and your thoughts. A reflection of the Hurricanes.
Really nice
Ken,
to
no,
see.
sorry, Ken. Ken, where did you get that 58% from? You are kidding yourself now. Like, it was, you deadpanned it though. It was awesome.
Bless the Hurricanes. Bless
We've got to thank the Hurricanes for all our success.
Actually, the Otago Highlanders and Otago should thank Hawke's Bay, so he's probably not far off, because a lot of Hawke's Bay legends have come down our way.
It's nice to see these two on camera. They don't get the recognition that they deserve, but they've called probably almost all of the Hurricanes games since '96.
Oh, everyone loves the Ken Laban story, let's be honest. You sit there, we had 3 or 4 during the game going on today. We're trying to focus on our job. Ken's chatting about all sorts of things, you know, talking about the Umaga Jensen brothers. And
Coop's tackling him in the commentary box.
And all sorts of things. But like you say, they've witnessed, you know, some of the great highlights of the Hurricanes. Interesting, like you say, you can see Nisbo thinks to himself, we should have won more titles. You know, we should have won more titles. But there has been some wonderful rugby played. Wonderful rugby played. You wouldn't know about playing here, JK. Wonderful memories for you at Lancaster Park. Oh, sorry, at Athletic Park. Athletic Park.
I mean, I remember getting selected for the All Blacks, coming down here. I mean, one of my favourite Wellington players back then was Alan Hewson. Had the privilege to play with him. He was an outstanding man because a lot of people didn't like him, and he was so graceful, and I'd never experienced that. But I went up the Millard stand, Joe, and I got vertigo. I had to come down. But when you played there, you'd just look up and people would be looking down. It was amazing. And they had, by far, Goldie, the worst change room in the world.
In the world. Comfortably.
It was like a jail.
It was like a dungeon. It was a dungeon. You went down these...
So small?
No, but you went down these stairs.
No one could fit in. You're like this, Joey, in the change room trying to get...
Sort of like we are on this bench at the moment.
Yeah, so in the famous 1996 test against the Wallaboos, which we won, which this is not the highlight for me, but before we went out to the field, the manager reminded us to put our bags on the benches because it was going to flood. And that was before the showers were actually turned on. So just so our clothes would keep dry. My memories, though, actually an Otago memory. It was one of the first games I played at Athletic Park, and Gordon Hunter was the coach at the time. We were playing for a Mike Gibson Trophy, which was a really special game between Otago and Wellington. And I'd missed a few kicks with the wind behind us. This has been into a massive southerly. David Kirk was the coach of the Wellington side at the time, and I had to make this conversion to tie the game to hold the trophy because we were the holders. It had actually fallen over once already, and I'd moved. But I said, well, I can't drop goal that thing. David Kirk has never forgiven me. And a little wee fist
hot dogging a little bit.
And then I wasn't hot dogging. I can't wait to get back there so I can get back into the shed.
There is a bit of hot dogging there, mate.
Because I knew what Gordy was going to do to me if I'd missed it, is the fact how desperate it was.
The television coverage has come a long way.
Back.
That wasn't Sky coverage, by the way.
Were you kicking off sand?
Oh yeah, I had to make a wee mound. There was no tees in those days. Make a wee mound. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Never seen that before. Well, my moment was out here, obviously 2015, when the Highlanders came up here and ruined the Hurricane Party and won their first ever Super Rugby title. Just a fantastic month, actually. We called it the Golden Month, where somehow we managed to do the impossible, beat the Chiefs in the quarterfinal, then go over to Sydney, beat the defending champions in the Waratahs, and then come to the capital.
It just feels so good, doesn't it? Feels so good to watch it.
Obviously, star-studded, were in some sort of form that season, and yeah, the battlers from Dunedin, it gives me shivers when you think about it, because it was just so up against it. No one, apart from
it was definitely a try. It was definitely a try.
That we could do it. Like I don't even think a lot of the fans, they were just happy that we'd made the final. They didn't actually believe, but that group so special. And I think what was even more special was the guys that week after, as you guys know, when you win special titles, it's actually the celebrations after that you remember the most, and it was just brilliant.
Was it a try, Joey? Was it a try?
Of course it was a try. Of course. 100%.
That's more controversial than the All Blacks rest is at the moment.
That's like saying 58% of players came from
Well, what I can tell you is 58% of Highlanders don't come from Dunedin.
The TMO studied in Dunedin, that's what I heard.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah, I think the only claim we've got 50% of it coming out of is probably medical students around our great nation. That'll be about it, I don't know.
Well, there's been some great stories told today, some great catch-ups. Another reason why I've come to Wellington is to rekindle the bromance between Israel Dagg and Cory Jane.
Cory Jane, my good mate, you must be pretty happy with that performance. Obviously the 5, only giving them 5 points, 1 try, you know. Defensive coach must be pretty proud of that effort.
I wasn't happy with the way we gave them the 5, but it was good. Like we obviously had a plan defensively and came out there and did it, which was satisfying because we haven't really done that too much this year. So it was good that we did it.
Mate, obviously we played a lot together, and you know, we spent a bit of time together in the change rooms, you know, in our rooms. Did you ever think you'd get into coaching when you were playing, and why? What drawn you to get in there and be a coach?
Well, I love the game, and I kind of, it's the closest thing to playing again. And you know, obviously I can't play because my body's sore. It's not as sore as yours, Israel, but sore. And I just liked, I guess, to find loopholes, back myself and trying to make it a career. So I'm doing it for the reason to try to be the best I can and try to make players the best they can. So it intrigues me.
Mate, what excites you going forward? You're obviously coaching a pretty exciting outfit, franchise, a franchise you've played a lot for. You know, going forward, you got any goals to go up and coach maybe the higher honours and maybe take over the head coach role?
No, I don't even know if I want that stress of a head coach. I've seen how they have to deal with it, and it's not fun. Look, I enjoy being on the field, and that's what I guess the defence role allows me to do. You know, get out there and actually coach and run around with the lads. And I just want the guys. Well, I want this franchise to win, and I want us to consistently win as well. But I also want guys to get to the next level and fulfil their potential. So that again is the reason why I'm doing it. And it's fun.
Mate, we know you spend a bit of time on Papamoa. So what does Cory Jane do in his spare time away from the rugby field when you're not staring at clips and you're just relaxing? What do you do?
Deal with naughty kids like Praseas.
I haven't seen Praseas for so long. I seen it, I was like, who's that kid?
11 years old, going on 30. No, well, if I'm not playing rugby, then I'm obviously with the kids. I'm taking them to their sports or telling them to do their schoolwork and helping them with their homework because it's at my level.
Mate, obviously Amy, special Mother's Day, so Amy's obviously had the day off. You'll be taking over tonight when you get home?
No, I won't. She's a good mum and she acts like a dad too, so I left her in bed this morning and said she had to cook her own breakfast, but I love her and she loves doing that anyway, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Oh, you're a good man. See, just good to see you, my brother, and you're doing well in the coaching role. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, gents. Great dad, comedian, but we can't forget what a great player he was as well.
Wasn't he? He had some great haircuts as well throughout the years, but he was always a guy that I loved watching. He had a great fend. He made the fend real cool, brought it back into fashion, but he was brilliant at fullback, but then sort of, you outside backs obviously would know more, but he was brilliant under the high ball, wasn't he? Like a real exponent of getting up above guys, and he was fearless in the air.
He was really unlucky when he played. He was really unlucky not to have played more test matches and started in more games at fullback or on the wing for the All Blacks. Had a great career, remarkable player, and as you can see, a fantastic person.
The 2011 World Cup, he was unreal.
Angles. Craig Green, I always remember when I was playing, Craig Green had the greatest angles in rugby, you know, and he brought that. So, you know, Cory had all that, fend, high ball, angles, great.
Well, it's been a great show and some big games coming up this week as well. One I want to highlight, Moana Pacifica taking on the Fijian Drua. Yeah. Make sure you check that one out. The two newcomers, the Brumbies and Crusaders, and Canberra as well is going to be huge. The Blues, JK, taking on the Reds. Another big, important game. All of these games for the next 3 weeks are going to be important, right? But before we leave, we want to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, to all of our mothers, and to everyone watching.
Love you, Mum.
And we've got an amazing montage as well to play down. There's a bit of cuteness in here. Are you ready for this?
Born ready.
Are you ready?
I'm looking forward to it.
I might get amazing. I'm not, well, you know, I asked for a photo. I'm not as sure exactly what we got. But my brother, my dad, my mum. It was amazing. It's a family photo.
Well, it's been a great show.
So
great job tonight, guys. And let's take a look at some great memories and moments. It's a nice one, JK.
Yeah, and I miss my mum. She passed 4 years ago. She's an amazing lady.
Here's my mum, my dad, my brother. I miss both my brother and my dad.
Really, really beautiful photos here. Christina Sue and her mum.
Well, there's me.
Which one's you?
The little blondie, the little blondie in the middle, mate.
Nice.
Trouble. Yeah.
Still got those shorts.
Happy Mother's Day to my mum as well, Cheryl. Beautiful photos. Whaono, Ken Laban and Izzy as well. We know that his mum isn't here anymore. So big ngāmihi to you, Izzy. And we'll see you next week.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.